Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me. In my series Year 2026 Rick Miracle Report, and this is number 53. The title of this video: Mycoplasm. Biological weapon. TMI probably for most people. Too much information, Rick. I'd really rather not know this. But the powers that be have been studying this stuff for so long. And one of the diseases apparently this mycoplasma can cause, it's been turned into a biological weapon by the U.S. Army and the governments around the world. AIDS, with Dr. Fauci's name right there. And so much more. Look at these bugs. That's a lot of information. And as they say all the time, you got to put everything into context. Who controls the world and what's the plan? You can call them the mafia, you can call them the Zionists, you can call them the communists, you can call them the capitalists, the bankers. All of that Satanist, controlling the United Nations, the crown in Britain, governments all over the world. Remember, the religion of these people is the Kabbalah, Chabad Leverbich. And Donald Trump had a Kabbalah teacher. So we know where he stands, why they made him president. He's one of them. And so we have all this stuff. But yet people still don't want to come face to face with the facts. So here I am again, being my tenacious self. I was cleaning up some of my documents. I got boxes and boxes of stuff. I'll never get it all cleaned. I won't live long enough. But I was looking for some things. And I said, what's this one? Mycoplasma, the linking pathogen of neural system diseases, neurological diseases, wasting away, and so much more, involving Vishna viruses, mutated forms of Brucella bacterium. What do you know about this stuff? Better question. What should you know? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'll get right to it and read this document. Throw in my 2 cents. So apparently this is from the Common Cause Medical Research Foundation, 190 Mountain Street, Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. The article was extracted from a Nexus magazine, volume 8, number 5, August-September 2001, by Donald Scott. So I've already made videos in the past on Donald Scott and his book and his son, and several issues about this same topic in Nexus magazine. And the fact that Bill Gates is into releasing millions of mosquitoes and boxes of ticks being found in Canada and other places, and tick epidemics are breaking out. What's that got to do with mycoplasma? Believe it or not, everything. So this is a very technical book here. Scanning electron micrographs whole mycoplasma with terminal structures indicated by arrows. So the bottom line is they've taken bacteria and the deadly component in the bacteria in Brucella bacteria. They found they could weaponize it by extracting the genetic code for what made it really deadly. And then they found out they could convert it into crystalline form and blow it into air conditioning systems in buildings, drop it from airplanes. And so they were testing it over cities and everything else. This seriously pathogenic, deadly disease, causing everything from AIDS and all kind of Vishna virus. Spit it out, Rick. Epidemics. They can call it COVID. They could call it all these hantavirus we're talking about. We can call it bird flu. We can call it mad cow disease. It's all been weaponized, and we know who's in charge. And they stand to make a lot of money, too. I mean, they own the big hospitals and all the pharmaceutical companies and all the equipment manufacturing and license all of the doctors. So it's a windfall. Plus, you get to kill two birds with one stone. Pun intended there. Because, you know, you got your desire, as Bill Gates told us, about depopulation. And several books written, The Limits of Growth and the Population Time Bomb, which I've made videos on, and the sustainability and all this other garbage. So there's overwhelming evidence that, you know, they're getting ready to turn on the control system, the digital prison. They're building the AI data centers at warp speed. I guess that's the kind of speed President Donald Trump likes to operate on, besides getting everybody jabbed. And President Biden said next time around there'll be no exceptions. So what would cause everybody to get jabbed, desire to get jabbed? Well, if there was an epidemic, people were getting sick and dropping everywhere, you know, that might be a motivating factor. But how could you do that? Well, I'm about to share with you how they could do that. Several strains of Mycoplasma have been engineered to become dangerous. They are now blamed for AIDS. Cancer is on the rise. They're blamed for cancer too. CFS, MS, CJD, and other neural system diseases. Remember, during the COVID lockdown, some people were just dropping dead. Even after taking the vaccine, they just broke into a fit and died. Better wake up. Today is Thursday, I think the 17th of June, 2026. Kind of an ominous time, if you ask me, because of the big celebration and all the games going on, the World Cup and the boxing in front of the Capitol building, and all this stuff. Let the games begin. Are you entertained yet? Are you distracted yet by everything going on? Are you relaxed? President Trump said the stock market's at an all-time high, way up there. And people are telling me, shut up, Rick, everything is going great. We're killing all those evil Arabs in the Middle East. What's the beef, Rick? Pathogenic mycoplasma. And I was talking to a friend of mine in a restaurant the other day, and he started arguing with me about this stuff. Here I am cleaning out some boxes, and I find this document. So I said, and I tried to tell him about mycoplasma. Didn't want to hear it. Nobody does. So I'll take this highly technical document and see if I can get anywhere with my audience, and then if they try to tell other people, they'll probably have the same hard time I have. But when it happens, they'll be asking, why? How is this happening? I'm about to tell you. A common disease agent weaponized. There are about 200 species of Mycoplasma. Now, everybody knows what a bacteria is. You get a microscope and you can see it. It looks kind of like a little caterpillar, really small. Or it can be T-shaped or round and all these other things. Bacteria. Streptococcus, all kinds of germs and diseases out there. And bacteria is real. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, there's no such thing as germs. If you believe that, go get a brain check. You can get a microscope, you can see this stuff. I've looked at a microscope. I could see the blood cells and these other things crawling around. And besides all the other stuff they've been putting into the human bodies, and apparently you can take a cell phone and see somebody is communicating via Bluetooth frequencies. So is that what everybody's going to be hooked up with? And how are you going to motivate everybody to go get the jab? Well, what if you have a weapon? And how are you going to get rid of a whole lot of people if whole communities want to resist the New World Order? And they just fly overhead, let go some of these crystals, and people start gasping for air and getting sick, because they have different levels. You know, they can take it to the 70% intensity, 80%, 90%, 100%, and people start dropping really quick. It's in here. A common disease agent weaponized. There are over 200 species of Mycoplasma. Most are innocuous and do not harm. So many of these bacteria, you know, they're supposed to be there. You got bacteria in your mouth. You got bacteria on the arm. You got bacteria. They're doing their job everywhere. You got mold. You got funguses. Bacteria is part of God's design. But these people looking for ways to weaponize it is part of Satan's designs. Only 4 or 5 of these Mycoplasma are pathogenic, seriously dangerous. Mycoplasma fermentans. So fermentans means fermenting, right? And when you get cancer, aren't cancer cells fermentans? Don't cancer cells thrive on fermentation, as per Tom Seyfried in his book Cancer as a metabolic disease. Funny how the brain takes a minute to access that data. Guess in a way we're all computers. So fermentans, Mycoplasma, cancers, fermentans, probably come from the nucleus of the Brucella bacteria. So everybody knows about Brucella bacteria. And that's the kind of unfriendly kind. And most of it really won't hurt you too bad. But there's 3 or 4 that are really, really bad. And the Mycoplasma means it's bacteria that are so small that it takes an electron microscope to see it. So it's a perfect weapon for the military and the people controlling the world, because regular doctors can't see it. This disease agent is not a bacterium nor a virus. It is a mutated form of Brucella bacterium combined with a Vishna virus from which the Mycoplasma is extracted. The pathogenic Mycoplasma used to be very innocuous, but biological warfare research conducted between 1942 and the present time has resulted in the creation of more deadly and infectious forms of Mycoplasma. So they've been working overtime to get a really deadly form, different kind of combinations for different kinds of results, and all you do is call them different names: hantavirus, coronavirus, all these other names they've been using. Researchers extracted this Mycoplasma from the Brucella bacterium and actually reduced the disease to crystalline form. So that ought to concern you. So they can crystalline it. That means you can drop it from the air. You can blow it into a building however you want. You can put it in a spray can and spray it on somebody's car doorknob or their home doorknob or whatever. And you just run up there, put a little bit on there, run away, and then they come home and they unlock the door. They got it. Perfect weapon, huh? They weaponized it, tested it on unsuspecting public in North America. Dr. Maurice Hilderman, chief virologist for the pharmaceutical company Merck Sharp and Dohme, stated this disease agent is now carried by everybody in North America, probably most people throughout the world. So that means it's probably been delivered via the chemtrailing, which they've been doing for years. And apparently, at some point, like AIDS, this particular pathogen can be in your body, but it takes some kind of traumatic event to kick it in, like AIDS. You can get AIDS and be fine until you get sick, then you go really sick. Despite reporting flaws, there has clearly been an increased incidence of all systemic degenerative diseases since World War II, especially since the 1970s, with the arrival of the previously unheard of disease, like chronic fatigue syndrome, and I guess in COVID terms, that would be long COVID. Chronic disease syndrome, or AIDS. And I've got all the books. I've gone over books showing all this stuff was done in a laboratory. So this is just another video to watch. And again, don't believe me. I mean, I'm reading a document that I found online and I've seen in magazines, and I've got the books. And so I probably talked about this a few dozen times. According to Dr. Shea Chang Lo, senior researchers for the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology and one of America's top Mycoplasma researchers, this disease agent causes many illnesses, including AIDS, cancer, chronic fatigue syndrome, Crohn's colitis, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease. Aren't a lot of people getting Parkinson's disease? Wagner's disease, collagen vascular disease such as rheumatoid arthritis and Alzheimer's. These are all on the increase. And they got this pathogen, Mycoplasma, that's crystalline, that's been infecting the population, and these are the diseases that it causes, according to this document. And a whole bunch of books. But see, they don't publicize this. It's all censored. Even the doctors don't know about it. It's a patented biological weapon. Okay? And it's not just one strain. They mixed it up with different concoctions. The brains of dead sheep and Vishna viruses from monkeys. So they got several flavors of these diseases. Dr. Charles Ingle, who is with the U.S. Institute of Health, Bethesda, Maryland, stated the following at an NIH meeting, that would be Dr. Fauci, on February 7th, 2000. I am now of the view that the probable cause of chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia is the mycoplasma. So there have been some people who figured it out. I have all the official documents to prove that mycoplasma is the disease agent in chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, as well as AIDS, multiple sclerosis, and many other diseases. Of these, 80% are U.S. or Canadian official government documents, and 20% are articles from peer-reviewed journals, such as the Journal of American Medical Association, the New England Journal of Medicine, in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. The journal articles and government documents complement each other. There's just if you go searching for this, you're going to get a ton of this information. I don't know. I've done the search. Go to the patent office. Type in mycoplasma. You're going to find the patents. It's all a biological weapon. We gotta read the technical details here. How the mycoplasma works. The mycoplasma acts by entering into individual cells of the body, depending upon your genetic predisposition. So they want to get inside your cells. Kind of sounds like mRNA vaccines, right? Genetic engineering, manipulating your cells. So they got one way to deliver it with this weapon, making everybody sick and scaring people. Hey, we got a vaccine for that. And people all have long lines in their cars and sticking their arm out the window during COVID. Jab me, jab me. Then later on, boost me, boost me. It's just crazy. Who's running this world? I've made plenty of videos. And who's controlling the world? And what do they really want? To get rid of us. It's part of their religion. They've told us. I've shared it 100 times, 1,000 times. So have other people. Okay. The journal articles and government documents complement each other. How the mycoplasma works. The mycoplasma acts by entering the individual cells of the body, depending on your genetic predisposition. You may develop neurological diseases if the pathogen destroys certain cells in your brain. Or you may develop Crohn's colitis if the pathogen invades and destroys cells in your lower bowel. Once the mycoplasma gets into the cell, it can lie there doing nothing, sometimes for 10, 20, and 30 years. So they're saying that we've all got it to some degree. So in other words, it's a variation of AIDS, something they created. So this is a secret weapon, and if you can agitate the human body to some kind of distress, I'm thinking 5G and stuff like that, and fear and anxiety, you know, all these things make you ill, distress your system. You already got the weapon inside you. I'm not meaning to scare everybody. But tell me where I'm wrong here. Once the mycoplasma gets into the cell, it can lie there doing nothing 10, 20, 30 years. But if a trauma occurs, like an accident or a vaccination that doesn't take, the mycoplasma can be triggered. And I'm being the fact that I have an electronic technology degree, worked at a major aerospace company, and we've all been studying this 5G and all these weaponized frequencies, directed energy weapons and everything. And I got Arthur Furstenberg's book, Beware of the Rainbow, that shows all the symptoms of microwave weapons are all exactly the same as the COVID vaccine. So if your body's loaded with this thing that can be triggered, like AIDS, and the right frequencies or the right intensity of frequencies can slam your body, and it's all invisible, you wouldn't even know it. You might shudder a little bit. They might do it 2 o'clock in the morning while you're sleeping. Boom, you wake up, you feel like you've been beaten by somebody with a bat all over your body. You've been zapped. Basically, it is only the DNA particle of bacterium. It doesn't have any organelles to process its own nutrients. So it doesn't have a stomach and a process to collect food or nutrients or proteins, whatever it's going to eat. So it grows by uptaking preformed sterols from host cells, and it literally kills the cell ruptures, and what is left dumps into the bloodstream. So that makes your bloodstream all poisonous and toxin. And this is an exact description of what cancer does. A blood cell has been invaded by a so-called cancer cell, and the truth be known, it's a biological weapon called mycoplasma. which is the smallest of smallest bacterium, Brucella, and they've actually just extracted the gene component of that deadly pathogen disease, weapon, toxin, poison, whatever you want to call it, and they've put it in crystalline form for delivery, and they're really excited about this. When I read on, you'll see this is their dream weapon. So it doesn't have any kind of organelles. It doesn't have any way to process nutrients. So it lives off a host cell, literally kills the cell ruptures, and what is left gets dumped in the bloodstream. That's cancer. And also different variations of the so-called coronavirus, hantavirus, and a really bad version of one of these diseases would be, of course, Ebola, developed by the weaponizing fanatics with the military and the Pentagon and all those organizations, RAND Corporation, DARPA, involving the leadership in Britain, the Crown, and the Illuminati, the banksters. All this had to be financed. It took a lot of money, a lot of years, and a lot of that was under the cover of Nixon's war on cancer in 1970, when they were caught with their pants down during MK Ultra, testing all these biological weapons on we the people right here in the USA. Even the AIDS epidemic in New York and LA, it was specific cities that they were targeting. So they were testing all these homosexuals with the propaganda of AIDS. And they said, you tested positive, and that wasn't what killed them. Is then the treatment that they suggested to help them killed them. They got jabbed with something. So they were testing us all the time. Creation of the mycoplasma, laboratory-made disease agent. Many doctors don't know about this mycoplasma disease agent because it was developed by the U.S. military in biological warfare experimentation and was not made public. The pathogen was patented by the United States military, Dr. Shea Chang Lo. I have a copy of the documented patent from the U.S. Patent Office. Now, this document has a source, www.holman, HOLMAN.net/RIFE technology, RIFE technology. And of course, RIFE frequencies can kill different pathogens. And FYI, what I did today is I got out my signal generator, which creates frequencies, and I'm studying up again on how the different frequencies can kill different pathogens in your body. And I desire to actually physically see the signal so I can be confident what it's doing. So in this case, in the book I was reading, which I'll get for you right now. In my battle with the colon tumor that I feel like I'm winning or I've won, I won't know until I get a colonoscopy again. But this was a very valuable book here. Cure of All Diseases by Hulda, Hulda Clark, PhD, is her name there. Hulda Clark, PhD, nurse. A Cure for All Diseases, and it's got a whole chapter in here on a whole section on signal generators and frequencies. And I do have a degree in electronics, so this is right up my alley, and I've been using these frequencies to help my own body kill any kind of parasites that might be in it. And what you do is you set the signal generator, which I brought with me right now just to show you, and you select the frequency you want, and you have these probes plugged in, and you hold a probe with one hand. So if you know what the frequency is, and they've got a list of frequencies for different diseases and ailments, which apparently are caused by different variations of parasites. So what happens is even we humans, everybody has frequencies, but different bacterium have different frequencies. Everything in the world has its own frequency. So if you can select the same frequency and put it into your body of the pathogen, and just like a microwave oven, it agitates it and kills it. So Hulda Clark explains all that, and of course I've gone over numerous books and I've made videos and shared some stuff, and I'm still doing that research, and I still use some of these technologies on myself. And so what I did, because when it said to set the generator at 5 volts square wave, 2,000 volts to 2,000 hertz, frequency of 2,000 to 800,000, 800K. So I plugged all the numbers in the front, and I go, it'd be really nice to be able to actually see the signal and it's sweeping, because if you select 2,000, 2K to 800K, and you got a 5 volt signal with a 2.5 offset, which means it doesn't go below 0. So it goes at 0 to 5 plus volts, a square wave. And it sweeps from 2K to 800K. And so you hold the probes, and it's sweeping your body with 2,000 square waves per second. To sweep the whole spectrum up to 800,000, 800K. It's in the book. And so I said, man, I'd like to see this. So I went on Amazon today, and they got fairly inexpensive oscilloscopes. So I said, oh, Rick, you should have this. And, it's like $160. So I ordered it. I should have it Sunday or something. But I'll actually be able to hook the oscilloscope up to the probes and see the sweeping of the frequencies and make sure that it's at 0 to 5 volts. Just to give me the confidence. And there's a whole bunch of other frequencies and other parameters you can do for other diseases. So I'm seriously into this stuff. And my focus, of course, was directed because, when I got the colon tumor, they wanted to do surgery and chemo, radiation, and all that, which would have devastated me. I certainly wouldn't have made videos for the past 2 years. I think July 6th is the anniversary of the colonoscopy, when they took the pictures and found the golf ball, seemingly by the images, probably wasn't that big, but blocking the colon about 10 inches in. And I had a friend of mine who had just got bladder cancer, and he did what they said, and he was dead within 8 months, and he immediately was in a bed in a wheelchair within weeks after the surgery. So he went downhill and was gone coming out of the gate. And I said, I'd rather make videos for a couple of years and die slowly than just jump into this disease hospital situation where apparently they're trying to kill us. That's my story. So, when I read more of this stuff, and so I did order the oscilloscope, which will help me with my research to actually see the different signals and shapes. Anyways, one of my hobbies, pastimes, I guess, taking up my time, besides my recent going out socially on Thursday night to do karaoke, which would be tonight. And I got the karaoke on my computer at home, and I practice by myself. And one Johnny Cash song, Ring of Fire. Just some FYI about myself. And Neil Diamond. And Jimmy Buffett. So, and then I got that other song I've been studying. In the year 2025, will we still be alive? You saw me do that in the last video, maybe. I'm trying, doing it at home alone like that. It's not the same as with the loud music from the big, where they have the karaoke. It just seems more better atmosphere where maybe, hopefully I sound better. Okay. Many doctors don't know about Mycoplasma disease agent because it was developed by the U.S. military in biological warfare experimentation and was not made public. This pathogen was patented by the United States military and Dr. Shai Chang Lo. I have a copy of the documented patent from the U.S. Patent Office. I know I read that already. But it probably doesn't hurt to read it twice. All the countries at war, so we had World War I, World War II, all the countries at war were experimenting with biological weapons. So this is not new. What is new is it's clear that when they switch over to this new world order, this digital system, they're anticipating a lot of people resisting. So they have to have a way to nip that in the bud. In 1942, the governments of the United States, Canada, and Britain entered into a secret agreement to create two types of biological weapons, one that would kill and one that was disabling, for use in the war against Germany and Japan, who are also developing biological weapons. While they researched a number of disease pathogens, they primarily focused on the Brucella bacterium and began to weaponize it. So this has been going on a long time, and before 1970 it was called MK Ultra and Project Naomi. I've gone over all this stuff, sourced it all, and many times. And after that, because it went public and it had Senate hearings, they used the same laboratories, the same doctors, and the same institutions, universities, but they called it the war on cancer. And cancer's been increasing, just like the war on drugs. And the drugs is increasing. The people who control our world, there's no doubt about it, are playing games with our minds. And are doing all these nasty things to us, including, assassinating presidents. Just documented leaders all over the world have been targeted. Countries have been instigated by social media to cause upheavals, agitate the people, so they run their president out so they can put their puppet leader in charge, like Ukraine in 2014. And they've done this in Peru and Chile and many other countries. It's all documented. I made videos on it. And as long as I can, and I got other books to go over, I'll keep on talking about these same things again and again and again. At some point, people might get it. I don't know. I know a few of you do. Okay. From its inception, the biowarfare program was characterized by a continuing in-depth review and participation by most eminent scientists, medical consultants, industrial experts, and government officials, and it was classified top secrets. You know what blows me away is all these cohorts, all these scientists, all these political leaders, all these bankers, all these people are participating in this. But then again, a few years ago, it was in the news, a bunch of biologists were mysteriously dying, etc. And then during COVID, a bunch of natural healers were experiencing a lot of turmoil. I think one doctor was thrown in a mental institution. Another doctor I know of died mysteriously. So there is this extermination program to get rid of anybody that might be causing too much of a wave. And that's what they do. The U.S. Public Health Service also closely followed the progress of biological warfare research and the development from the very start of the program. And the Centers of Disease Control, CDC, and the National Institute of Health, Dr. Fauci and group, Bill Gates and all them, in the United States were working with the military in weaponizing these diseases. They didn't tell you that during the COVID lockdown, did they? These are diseases that have existed for thousands of years, but they have been weaponized, which means they've been more contagious and more effective, and they are spreading. Yay or nay? The Special Virus Cancer Program, created by the CIA, that would be the Nazi intelligence and agents they brought over here after World War II in Project Paperclip. And then, of course, all the people that they trained afterwards. And if you woke up and got suspicious, like those biologists and doctors and other people, you ain't accidentally get hit by a bus or fall out of a ski lift or something. Created by the CIA, NIH, to develop a deadly pathogen for which humanity had no natural immunity, AIDS, was disguised as a war on cancer. President Nixon's war on cancer. I got big 500-page reports every year. They were testing everything under the sun and see what it did. So all this was computerized. They got designer diseases, thousands of them, maybe 1 million of them. You should see the big thick books. President Nixon's war on cancer. Starting in 1970, after they got caught with their pants down with Project Naomi and Project MK Ultra, and had Senate hearings, and it made the newspapers, and they were testing, experimenting on people in prisons and hospitals and all kind of, abducting them even. Oh, you go to see your psychiatrist because you're a little schizophrenic, and the psychiatrist is in on it and kind of guides you into a place where they take you in and put you in a straitjacket and start experimenting on you. These people are monsters, which is another weird thing, because the headquarters for the Illuminati was over there near Geneva, Switzerland, I think Bern or something, or that other city I named yesterday, which was the original homeland of the Frankenstein movie. This is really a Frankenstein thing. Just a little bit more technologically advanced. All right. It was disguised as a war on cancer, but was actually part of MK Naomi. Many members of the Senate and House of Representatives do not know what has been going on. For example, the U.S. Senate Committee on Government Reform has searched the archives in Washington and other places for the document titled The Special Virus Cancer Program, Progress Report Number 8, and they couldn't find it. Somehow they heard I had it, that would be the author of this article, and they called me and asked me to mail it to them. Imagine a retired school teacher being called by the U.S. Senate and asked for one of their secret documents. The U.S. Senate, through the Government Reform Committee, is trying to stop this type of government research. Well, they haven't succeeded at that, have they? It's on steroids right now. And remember, July 4th, they're celebrating 250th anniversary of the United States. But wait a minute, it coincides with another celebration. What else happened 250 years ago in 1776? Whoa, they created the Illuminati, 1776. 250 years ago. Same day. Not day, but I think it was May 1st, one of my viewers emailed me or sent that. May 1st. So, if they control the world and they have aims, are they really trying to celebrate the United States' 250th birthday? Or will they use that to fool us once again and celebrate the 250th year of the bloodline of the Illuminati, which are all these people in charge? Peter Thiel, President Bush, Kabbalah, all of the politicians, George Bush Jr., Sr., Obama, Elon Musk, all these big organizations, corporations, money, everybody who's getting ready for the big 5G AI data center to be turned on all over the world and go cashless. And if you don't cooperate, swear your allegiance to the Luciferic New World Order, the Antichrist system, bye-bye. The Special Virus Cancer Program, created by the CIA and the NIH to develop a deadly pathogen from which humanity had no natural immunity, AIDS, was disguised as a war on cancer, but was actually part of MK Naomi. Many members of the Senate and House of Representatives do not know what's going on. For example, the U.S. Senate Committee on Government Reform searched the archives in Washington, so they found out this one school teacher had this stuff. The U.S. Senate, through the Government Reform Committee, is trying to stop this type of government research. You can't go against the banksters and the Illuminati and the Mafia and the Zionist leaders who want this New World Order. They will not be stopped easily. It's going to have to be a very chaotic, violent revolution by the people, which will probably happen at some point when the people are under severe distress. And that's all written by Albert Pike in a letter in the 1870s or something. Crystalline brucella. The title page of a genuine U.S. Senate study. So the title page of a genuine U.S. Senate study, declassified on February 24, 1977, shows that George Merck of the pharmaceutical company, you see those great big tractor trailers going down the road and those boxes on the backs of the truck, cargo containers? A lot of them have great big gigantic letters, Merck. Merck Sharp and Dome Pharmaceutical Company, which now makes cures for diseases that at one time it created. What a way to make some money. Make the disease, make the people sick, and then offer them the cure and collect the dough. Reported in 1946 to the U.S. Secretary of War that his researchers had managed for the first time to isolate the disease agent in crystalline form. So it's a super small component of bacteria called Mycoplasm. It can be crystallized, it can be delivered many ways. Spray can, aerosol spraying, sky spraying, put in air conditioning ducts, they're putting it over your vegetables, your food at the farmer's market. And they're saying to us that they're putting the vaccination materials, mRNA codes, on our vegetables to kind of vaccinate us in a different way. So when you go buy your vegetables, it very well could be laced with the mycoplasma that they're going to call an mRNA vaccination to try to help you. And they've done anything else to try to help us. So they're certainly not a sky spraying us to try to help us. And all these other things they've been doing, the wars and economic theft and all that. They had produced a crystalline bacterium toxin extracted from the Brucella bacterium. The bacterium toxin could be removed in crystalline form and stored, transported, and deployed without deteriorating. It could be delivered by other vectors, such as insects. Insects, I got a story for you there. Aerosol, well, we all know we're being chemtrailed every day. And the food chain. In nature, it is delivered with the bacterium. But the factor that is working in the brucella is the mycoplasma. Brucella is a disease agent that doesn't kill people, it disables them. But according to Dr. Donald MacArthur of the Pentagon, appearing before the Congressional Committee in 1969, researchers found that if they had mycoplasma at a certain strength, actually 10 to the 10th power, it would develop into AIDS, and a person would die from it within a reasonable period of time because it could bypass the natural human immune system defenses. If the strength was 108, it would manifest into chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. If it was at 107, they would present as wasting. They wouldn't die, they wouldn't be disabled, they just wouldn't be very interested in life. They would waste away. Long COVID, maybe? Most of us have never heard of the disease brucellus because it largely disappeared when they began pasteurizing milk, which was the carrier. One salt shaker of the pure disease agent in crystalline form can sicken the entire population of Canada. It is absolutely deadly, not so much in terms of killing the body, but disabling it. Because of the crystalline disease agent that goes into solution in the blood, ordinary blood and tissue tests will not reveal its presence. The mycoplasma will only crystallize at 8.1 pH, and the blood has a pH of 7.4 pH. So the doctors think your complaints are all in your head. Crystalline brucella and multiple sclerosis. In 1998 in Rochester, New York, I met a former military man, PFC Donald Bentley, who gave me a document and told me, I was in the Army. I was trained in bacteriological warfare. We were handling a bomb filled with brucellus. Only it wasn't brucellus, it was brucella toxin in crystalline form. So this is a weapon they have. This guy was in the Army. He got out, and this other guy was his friend, and he started telling him the story. We were spraying it on the Chinese and North Koreans. So we've already been spraying this on other peoples. The United States, supposed to be the savior of the world. Everything is backwards. It's been the menace of the world. I'm a United States citizen. But then again, it isn't us citizens. We know nothing. We're kept out of the loop. He showed me his certificate listing his training in chemical, biological, and radiological warfare. Then he showed me 16 pages of documents given to him by the U.S. military when he was discharged from service. So he was working on these things, and they gave him these technical papers to people who were leaving, working on these pathogenic weapons, and said, hey, if you develop this disease, don't make big waves, come see us and we're going to give you a full pension. They linked brucellus with multiple sclerosis and stated in one section, veterans with multiple sclerosis, a kind of creeping paralysis developing to a degree of 10%. I don't know if it's sclerosis or sclerosis. Sclerosis. I'm just wonderful at pronunciation, as you're aware. Developing to a degree of 10% or more disability within 2 years after separation from active service, they may be presumed to be service-connected for disability compensation. So that's why they gave them some papers on what might happen to them, because they were working with the biological weapons. Compensation is payable to eligible veterans whose disabilities are due to service. In other words, if you become ill with multiple sclerosis, it is because you were handling brucella, and we will give you a pension. Don't go raising a fuss about it. In these documents, the government of the United States revealed evidence of the cause of multiple sclerosis, but they didn't make it known to the public or to your doctor. I don't want to waste people's time with these videos and conversation, but I just thought this particular conversation needed a new video, needed a refresh. You know, we tend to forget things. In 1949 report, Dr. Kyger, Kyger, and Hayden suggested the possibility that multiple sclerosis might be a central nervous system manifestation of chronic brucellus. Testing approximately 113 MS patients, they found that 95 also had positive for brucella. We have document from a medical journal which concludes that 1 out of 500 people who had brucellus would develop what they call neurobrucellus, in other words, brucellus of the brain, where the brucellus settles in the lateral ventricles, where the disease multiple sclerosis is basically located. Contamination at Camp Dietrich lab workers. So Camp Dietrich figures big into this. And I think, Dr. Fauci and the CDC and the NIH all figure largely in Camp Dietrich and the University of North Carolina and a lot of other common universities and institutions. This is all in the biological weapons material and all that I've gone over. And I happen to notice that when they went from MK Ultra at Fort Detrick and went to the war on cancer, it's still at Fort Detrick with the same scientists and the same laboratories, different name. They think they can fool us. Don't be fooled. The war on cancer was the same thing as MK Ultra, Project Naomi. And, you can believe because you can see the results of all of their weapons testing and using it on us all over the world. Contamination at Camp Dietrich lab workers. In 1948, New England Journal of Medicine report titled "Acute Brucellosis Among Laboratory Workers" shows us how actively dangerous this agent is. The laboratory workers were from Camp Dietrich, Frederick, Maryland, where they were developing biological weapons. You gotta love your government if you're an American citizen. And they do the same thing in Canada and Britain. Oh my. And they control the world. The last president who tried to get in their way, boom. Contamination at Camp Dietrich lab workers. The laboratory workers were from Camp Dietrich, Frederick, Maryland, where they developed biological weapons. Even though these workers had been vaccinated, wore rubberized suits and masked, and worked through holes in the compartment. So you've all seen that in the movie. They got these suits on, they got their arms with these rubber gloves and working on the stuff. Many of them came down with this awful disease because it is so absolutely and terrifyingly infectious. So just remember, the genociding, the blatant genociding of the people in Gaza and the bombing of all the other countries in the Middle East, all planned, according to General Wesley Clark, for the inside job of September 11, 2001. So everything's a lie. We've been under attack. They're manipulating us. They're distracting us. The World Cup, the boxing match in the White House. The distraction and the self-praise that they give each other on the news in the morning. Are you watching it? Are you seeing it? Do you see it? Do you concur that they're all such wonderful, great people? They continually just say that about each other. And anybody, even another leader from another country, comes over here from Egypt. I was watching the news, and he's sitting there how great President Trump is. It's probably part of the deal. You got to say I'm great if you want my cooperation. We already know what he does to people who do go against him. He ruins their career. They even have to leave the Senate or their jobs or whatever. This is very, very familiar to me when I see the rise of Hitler. Is it the purge over there that was going on? And of course they've been doing the purge here for a long time with the replacement programs. From Bush's, from Obama, they've been kind of pushing these people out, all these different industries, medical, military leaders. So you got to make sure you wonder, who's in charge of a nuclear submarine right now? A good guy or a bad guy? The good guys are all gone, so what's that leave? Is anybody out there using their common sense and looking at this whole big picture? Let's not forget, the powers that be are on a schedule. You ever heard of the Project 2030, Agenda 2030? This is the year 2026. Moving fast towards 2027. So between now and then, and they met their agenda for Agenda 2020. Remember that one? They were warning about that for 15, 20 years before that. And in 2020, they locked down the whole world. Now they got Agenda 2030. And apparently, Israel is on a deadline to accomplish some of this stuff. And we can see the massive advance of what they're doing in the Middle East. Because apparently there's some kind of astrological timeline that they got to get this done to bring in the Antichrist and rebuild King Solomon's temple. So they're on an accelerated schedule, and this is just one of the weapons that they have. And you know, and the bang for the buck to kill off a lot of people, this is probably a cheaper delivery than even bullets. You just spray it all and people just start getting sick and wasting away. And they don't like to kill quickly. They like it to be agitated, long-term suffering that's horrible. It's some kind of satanic thing. The article was written by Lieutenant Calderon Howell, Marine Corps Captain Edward Miller, Marine Corps Lieutenant Emily Kelly, United States Navy Reserve Captain Henry Bookman. They were all military personnel engaged in making the disease agent Brucella into more effective biological weapons. So my personal opinion, this is the United States of America. What is our military and our universities and the scientists and the professors and being financed by the World Banks and everything, and all the powerful elite buying stocks in all these pharmaceutical industries? This is insane. This is just wrong. Horribly wrong. Covert testing of Mycoplasm. Testing and dispersal methods. Documented evidence proves that the biological weapons they were developing were tested on the public in various communities without their knowledge or consent. And I've made book reviews on numerous books exposing all this. Leonard Cole, Clouds of Secrecy. Leonard Horowitz, AIDS and Ebola, etc. Biological weapons. And numerous others. And I still have dozens of other books all about this stuff by experts that I haven't got to be making book reviews on, which I need to do, which I'm trying to do. Is all these things, you know, one thing comes before the next thing, plus I have a personal life, and, you know, get out there and at least try to normalize some aspect of my day and get some money to pay the bills. Good thing I pray a lot. Without God's help, I'd be in a lot of trouble. I believe that 100%. And every time I tell people that, they don't believe me. I've prayed, and man, a miracle would happen. Weirdly enough, that's the name I'm going by, Rick Miracle. Even to the point one time, I was buying books and reading and doing the research, and had a financial hard time. I didn't tell my friends. And I went down to check the mail, and there was an envelope full of money in my mailbox. I guess somebody saw that I was a little distressed. It was years ago. Said, and I'd been praying too. So all my life I prayed, and when I had distress situations, some miracle happened. So I do believe that the power of prayer, even when you have the tumor and the ailment I've been experiencing, and the respiratory problem I've been fighting since early spring, which I feel like I've been doing numerous things to battle that. So I'm learning a lot about that. I got what you call a diffuser. And it produces some kind of steam, and you put certain essential oils in there. It's just one of my many treatments. Besides different supplements and different things to eat to reduce your bodily inflammation. So apparently whatever's in our bodies and in the food and everything, a lot of people are having inflammation problems right now. So if you do feel these kind of funky things happening to you, you need to really go into some kind of detox and anti-inflammation lifestyle and foods and supplements. And get some sun and vitamin D and all these. It's so vast and numerous things I'm doing. But I just do it slowly and pay attention to what works, and I keep everything written down. Documented evidence proves that the biological weapons were tested on the public in various communities without their knowledge or consent. The government knew that crystalline brucella would cause disease in humans. Now they needed to determine how to spread it and the best way to disperse it. And again, as I've been saying, the big concern everybody should have is who is the future enemy. And apparently they think a lot of us are useless food eaters, and the Zionist Kabbalah folks are screaming to have us eliminated from the planet entirely. And these are their weapons. They're in charge of these weapons. And that's what they say they want to do. I've published the videos where they say it. That's what aggravates me so much. I'm doing this and people do not seem to be taking it so seriously. But they will. Just remember, it's a big club and you ain't in it. George Carlin. And guess what's going to run the whole show? The data AI centers. They ain't worried about you. Elon Musk even said that recently. You won't have to work. And they're not going to take the resources and feed you. Wake up. They tested dispersal methods for Brucella suis and Brucella meningitis at Dugway Proving Ground in Utah in September 1952. Probably 100% of us are now infected with Brucella suis and Brucella mellitus. Another government document recommended the genesis of open-air vulnerability tests and covert research development programs to be conducted by the Army and supported by the Central Intelligence Agents, the CIA, the people that knocked off President John Kennedy, and so much more. I've gone over many books on that. At that time, the government of Canada was asked by the U.S. government to cooperate in the testing weaponized brucella, and Canada cooperated fully with the United States. So who is Canada? Canada is the crown, right? So the crown, and who is the crown? The separate city of London is the banksters. Who's the banksters? That's these guys. Who controls the politicians all over the world? These guys. So they get on the horn to London, and Canada's going to cooperate. The U.S. government wanted to determine whether mosquitoes would carry the disease and also if the air would carry it. A little sidebar here. When I was making the video seconds ago on your time, I could feel that I was starting to choke up again. So I had to stop the video. I wanted to tell you what I did. I'm trying this new solution. So I got this book here. Aromatic therapy. Aromatherapy. Aromatic therapy. So it has all this stuff in here for these different illnesses. And HYSSOP, asthma, hay fever, pulmonary emphysema, difficulty in breathing, chronic bronchitis, cough, influenza, all this other stuff, rheumatitis, intestinal parasites. So they got these different essential oils that you can get. This is peppermint essential oil, and that's in this book. then it's just, I was reading those old Nexus magazines and they were talking about this. So I said, that's another aspect of my research. So I ordered the book and I looked up what would be causing my asthma attacks. Like I said, I just had one. I had to go stop. And what I did is I went and turned on this diffuser. And on the top of it, there's a little hole. And it looks like steam coming out. And what it is, it's water and the peppermint essence oil. And I've ordered a couple other ones, eucalyptus and some kind of tea something that's in the book. And so when I start getting these gasping for air attacks, it's just something I've been doing for the past couple days. I go, instead of taking in the inhaler, I have the inhalers I get from the doctor. I try to use natural medicines. So these attacks, I can be breathing perfectly well all day long. All of a sudden, boom, I start gasping for air and choking. And it's like if somebody is allergic to peanuts and they eat some and they're at a party or something and they didn't know there was peanuts in the candy bar and all of a sudden they have an allergic reaction and actually fall over dead. So I get these attacks where all of a sudden I'm gasping for air. My whole air seems like it shuts down. So I go grab my inhaler. I go to my doctor, my provider, and I have inhalers and some other things. And I had acute stages of it earlier this year where I had to go to the emergency room a couple times. And, I managed to resolve the colon tumor problem. And now I got this COVID-like problem. And I've never been vaccinated, but I did get the first so-called COVID attack in 2020. And I've never been vaccinated. So whatever delivery system and whatever I got, hence, as you can imagine, is the reason for my research into all this stuff. So I am documenting what works, and apparently this is resolving my issue to some degree. It's a diffuser, like $16, $18 on Amazon. And you fill a little compartment with water and 6 or 7 drops of this peppermint essential oil. And it seems to alleviate the problem. And of course, one component of the essential oil from peppermint, everything has a frequency. That's why these different aromatherapy, a compendium of plant medicines and their healing properties. So I'm a techie guy and I'm kind of an experimenter, but it seems to be relieving me of my attack. So I turn the thing on and a little steam comes out of the top there like a rising in the air. And I put my head over it and breathe it in for a few minutes and it seems to make me feel better. A diffuser. So I talk about it because I was making this video and I started knowing it was coming on. And when I stopped the video, I started choking. So I went and turned on the diffuser and breathed over it for a couple of minutes, and I feel better. So I did look up some other essential oils. So I need people, people need to be open-minded. And remember, everything is a frequency. That's what plants are. And so this is the Rife technology, is using a frequency generator and holding the probes, which would deliver a frequency to your body. I'm not selling anything here. Besides making videos trying to wake up the world to the attack on the world. I suffered that colon tumor and I find out it's prevalent. A lot of people are getting it, but they go with the surgery, chemo, radiation, and they die rather quickly. So I said, I think not. So between the frequency generator and all this other stuff I'm doing, and now looking into the diffuser and the different essential oils, I do understand, as a guy with an electronic technology degree, working at an aerospace company for 10 years, everything has a frequency. So if you can breathe it in and you're getting the frequency in your body that way, and alleviates what's causing the problem, or you hold the probes, or you use an inhaler with the doctor prescribed steroid stuff. And I don't trust the pharmaceutical industry one bit. They want to give you just things to help you to live through the illness. They don't want you to get over it and fix the problem what caused it. And that's what I'm all about. I want to fix the problem what causes the illness. And so I've done all those things for 2 years with the colon tumor. And I go to the bathroom and my bowel movement is good and there's no blood at all. I can only conclude there's no obstruction. But my medical provider doesn't want to provide me with the colonoscopy because I won't go with the surgery, chemo, and radiation. So what do you got to do? Little sidebar there. And I also want to mention, I feel that, these kinds of illnesses and problems are going to be affecting everybody. The sky spraying here in Florida today, and I did take a short little video and sent it to a friend of mine who I had lunch with the other day, and he said, "Rick, I've noticed the skies were all clear every day. It doesn't look like they're spraying us anymore." And he lives in Melbourne, and I'm 20 minutes away in Sebastian, South. I said, "I don't know about your area, but they're spraying like Hades here." And then whenever they're spraying really heavy, I break out into these attacks. I've always been slightly asthmatic, probably vaccinated related when I was younger. And when I went into the Army at 17, I got vaccinations. So who knows what caused me an entire lifetime of slightly asthmatic with attacks coming on. And the big one hit me during COVID. And then every year around the spring, I get slammed to the point I have to go to an emergency room. I can't breathe. I think I'm going to suffocate. It's really horrible. So I've been doing all these pro treatments on beefing up my immune system and finding these other things to resolve the problem. And the diffuser's the new one. So I think, and I went and ordered that oscilloscope so I could kind of get more intense. I have the books on the Rife technology and the frequencies for different illnesses. So besides doing all this research, trying to wake up the world, I'm also just trying to keep myself alive. And also, and I started a little business, and I'm trying to keep myself financially okay. And then, of course, I got to go out there and enjoy life, and I'll try a little hand at karaoke again tonight, my fourth Thursday. And meanwhile, I continue to try to clean up all the books and documents I have, and I keep finding certain things. And I said that this is what I need to talk about. Testing via mosquito vector in Punta Gorda. So the government's using mosquitoes. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, don't I know more about that? And I suspect the people watching my videos knows more about that. And Bill Gates is heavily involved into mosquito delivery, right? They're harvesting them, growing them, and releasing them. This is common stuff in the news. And you can go look it up. Bill Gates mosquito engineering. And then we know about this brucellus, and I'm reading this technical paper, and another way they can deliver this disease is with mosquitoes. And Bill Gates invested $20 million into the virus issue and made $200 million. And Bill Gates is also involved and invested in sky spraying, chemtrailing. This is all public knowledge. So Bill Gates backed firm to release 150K gene-hacked mosquitoes. It's right here for you to find. Go use your search engine, Bill Gates mosquito engineering. Scientists turned mosquitoes into syringes, and Bill Gates funded. Why Bill Gates backed insect factory releases 30 million. Using mosquitoes to fight mosquitoes. You think they're trying to fight mosquitoes? Why the U.S. company plans to release 2 billion genetically modified mosquitoes. Villain origin story. Bill Gates mutant mosquito factory. Bill Gates releases genetically modified mosquitoes. And let's not forget, Bill Gates has been on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, mentioned in the Epstein files plenty of time. Can anybody else there connect the dots here? And I did go on Yahoo Image. There's all these images. Yahoo Image, and you can click any one of these images, and they got mosquitoes here. So go to Yahoo Images, Bill Gates releases mosquitoes. There's numerous pages of Bill Gates and the mosquitoes. Then I was reading this paper. Testing via mosquitoes. So you know about the brucellosis. You know what it is. You know they've been doing it. They're open air testing it. And they're looking for delivery system. Bill Gates is doing the mosquitoes. Says in this report, testing via mosquitoes. You know, a person like me can put 2 and 2 together. And in Punta Gorda, Florida, right across the coast from the East Coast, on the West Coast is Punta Gorda. Apparently in 1957, they were spraying 1957, they were spraying the whole town with these brucellosis-infected mosquitoes. The National Institute of Health claimed that the mosquitoes came from a forest fire. So the National Institute of Health was lying, said they came from a forest fire 30 miles away. The truth is, those mosquitoes were infected in Canada by Dr. Guilford Reed at Queen's University. Queen's University. They were bred in Bellevue, Ontario, taken down to Punta Gorda and released there. Within a week, the first 5 cases of chronic fatigue syndrome. So they got this weapon. And they got plans for us. You getting my concern here? I just thought, people that watch my videos, maybe you could spread the word that this is their capabilities. This is the tool they have. It's invisible. If you have guns, you can't shoot the mosquitoes. Within a week, 5 cases of chronic fatigue syndrome were reported to the local clinic in Punta Gorda. The cases kept coming until finally 450 people were ill with the disease. The government of Canada had established a Dominion parasite laboratory in Bellevue. So the government has a Dominion parasite laboratory in Bellevue. And apparently a lot of cancers are caused by parasites. And the parasites can be really small. The parasites could have been infected with the brucella. Gene editing technology for parasites. Where 100 million mosquitoes a month were made, they were shipped to Queen's University and certain other facilities to be infected with the crystalline disease agent. The mosquitoes were let loose in certain communities in the middle of the night so that the researchers could determine how many people would become ill with chronic fatigue syndrome, or fibromyalgia, which was the first disease to show. One of the communities they tested it on was St. Lawrence Seaway Valley, all the way from Kingston to Cornwall in 1984. They let hundreds of millions of infected mosquitoes. Over 700 people in the next 4 to 5 weeks developed myalgia, encephalitis, meningitis, can't say that long word, and chronic fatigue syndrome. Covert testing of other diseases agents. Mad cow disease, Kuru CJD, in the 4 tribe. So before and during World War II, at the infamous Cape Camp 731 in Manchuria, the Japanese military contaminated prisoners of war with certain diseases. So the Japanese were putting these diseases into prisoners of war. They also established a research camp in New Guinea in 1942. There they experimented on the 4 Indian tribe and inoculated them with a minced-up version of the brains of diseased sheep containing a Vishna virus which caused mad cow disease. So they take the brains of a diseased animal, sheep in this case, let's not forget mad cow disease and bird flu disease, and they mix it with the Vishna virus which causes mad cow disease. After about 5 or 6 years later, after the Japanese had been driven out, the poor people of the 4 tribe developed what they call kuru, which in their word was wasting. Well, the brucella weaponized version causes bodily wasting. And they began to shake, lose their appetites, and die. The autopsies revealed that their brains had literally turned to mush. They had contracted mad cow disease from the Japanese experiments. It gets worse here. When World War II ended, Dr. Israel Shiru, a medical doctor who was commissioned as a general in the Japanese army so he could take command of Japan's biological warfare development, tested in deployment. So this doctor who was into this biological weapons was captured. What do you think they did with him? Same thing they did with the German biological monsters. They brought him here and put him in jobs. He was given a choice of a job with the United States Army or execution as a war criminal. Not surprisingly, Dr. Ishii Shiro chose to work with the U.S. military to demonstrate how the Japanese had created mad cow disease. So where do you think mad cow disease came from? In the news. In 1957, when the disease was beginning to blossom among the 4 people, Dr. Carlton Gudjacek of the United States National Institute of Health, Dr. Fauci's organization, headed to New Guinea to determine how the minced-up brains of Vishna-infected sheep affected them. He spent a couple years there studying the 4 people and wrote an extensive report. He won the Nobel Prize for discovering the Kuru disease of the 4 tribe. So they got this disease that causes wasting away. So that's just part of the biological weapon inventory. Testing carcinogens in Winnipeg, Montego. So I'm going to skip ahead here so I can end this video. There's a whole bunch more monster stuff here. Brucella, Mycoplasma, and disease. AIDS. The AIDS pathogen was created out of Brucella bacterium, mutated with the Vishna virus. Then the toxin was removed as a DNA particle called mycoplasma. So put that in your brain, that's mRNA. It's a piece of a gene code. They got the gene codes. You got it? They used the same mycoplasma to develop disabling diseases like MS, Crohn's colitis, and this is where it got me. Lyme disease. Lyme disease. And what causes Lyme disease? Well, that would be ticks. Okay, so what do we know about ticks? I think I have the page here. I've gone over this before several times, but they've been finding boxes of ticks that I've gone over recently. Where did I put that document? It was right here on my table under the book. So I looked up. Boxes of ticks found. So this is in this biological weapons things that this brucella can cause. Lyme disease. And they're dropping boxes of ticks everywhere, which causes Lyme disease. So my theory is they're dropping all these boxes that people are finding, so they believe that when people get Lyme disease, that's where they got it from. Where they really might be getting it from is these crystalline brucellas. Tick boxes for tick control. Are Midwest farmers finding boxes of ticks? Are farmers actually finding boxes of ticks? Whistleblower claims boxes of ticks are being dropped from planes. What about the viral video claiming boxes of ticks? So the internet right now is controlled by AI and it's battling the information. Boxes of ticks found in Midwestern farm fields have people. No evidence of video show box of ticks. They got all these images here of the boxes of ticks. But there's going to be a whole bunch of search results trying to tell you it's all made up. Tick-borne bioweapon defense release, disease deployed. So here's another one. Tick-borne bioweapon disease deployed, boxes of ticks. May 17, 2026. Landowner accuses unknown helicopter operator of dropping boxes of ticks on their farm. This follows a series of other videos of people finding boxes of ticks on farms. So the people who want to be convinced that none of this is real are going to be easily swayed to not believing it. But then I'm reading this thing about this report here that you can look up. The linking pathogen in neurosystemic diseases. Mycoplasma. So if you just look up mycoplasma, but the linking pathogen in neurosystemic diseases, the Common Cause Medical Research Foundation, pathogenic mycoplasma, and I can't give you all of this stuff, but I got to this point that I was reading, and it says here the AIDS pathogen was created out of the Brucella bacterium, mutated with the Vishna virus. Then the toxin was removed as DNA particle, mRNA, called a mycoplasma. They used the same mycoplasma to develop disabling diseases like Crohn's, colitis, Lyme disease. And I think about the mosquitoes. And Bill Gates is releasing lots of billions of mosquitoes. And so they got it all. These little mosquitoes, when they get you, will give you the brucellas. Just the particular strain for the cause and effect that they want. In the previously mentioned U.S. congressional document, a meeting held on June 9, 1969, the Pentagon delivered a report to Congress about biological weapons. The Pentagon stated, "We are continuing to develop disabling weapons." Dr. MacArthur, who was in charge of the research, said, "We are developing a new lethal weapon. A synthetic biological agent that does not naturally exist. mRNA technology." mRNA technology, gene editing technology, is all synthetic. That's what they're pumping people with the vaccinations. And they got this Brucellus crystalline stuff that they can deliver by aerosol, spray can on your doorknob, put it on your lettuce and vegetables at the market. And apparently they're even using mosquitoes and ticks. Or they're going to cause the disease, Lyme disease, and blame it on the ticks because everybody are finding the ticks. I guess they want to kind of keep it hush-hush that they have these biological weapons and they can cause Lyme disease, which apparently is breaking out at epidemic levels in Massachusetts and New York and other places. Plus, remember, all these people who get sick are going to have to take to the pharmaceuticals and go to the hospital and the doctor, and these people control all the medical industries and the equipment and everything else. So they're just going to make a whole lot of money. Plus, you're killing two birds with one stone. A lot of people are going to die. And particularly at this particular time in reality, when a huge portion of the population, particularly in the United States, are elderly. And of course, they probably don't want everybody to be healthy and live into their 90s. It'd be nicer to hurry them right along and save a whole lot of money so that Jared Kushner and gang can buy more islands, etc., etc. and they can create more weapons and more drones. We're developing a new lethal weapon, a synthetic biological agent that does not naturally exist, for which no natural immunity can be acquired. So I hope I didn't waste your time today with this video. Wake up! If you like my videos, consider making a donation, link below, or a P.O. box. Like I said, I got a whole lot of delightful feelings when I went there and found 2 envelopes the other day. I said, somebody out there does love me. Anyways, and share the links to these videos. Play the video to a group of people. You can mock me, I don't care. But look up these documents. Get books like this. You know, look up Mycoplasm. There's all kinds of books. Look up AIDS. I've made videos, all kinds of books about AIDS was created in a laboratory. And then look into some of these natural cures, because we're going to have to really find things to boost our immune systems. And this aromatherapy, healing properties in plants, and that diffuser machine for $16 on Amazon seems to me to be like a natural way. And there's different essential oils for different illnesses. We need to focus and find things that work and share it with other people. Rick Miracle reporting.